Welcome back to another episode of Playing Around Wisconsin. This journey began in late 2024, and 2025 promises to take you to new places around the state, hopefully inspiring you to see them for yourself. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Playing Around Wisconsin. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Playing Around Wisconsin. Today we are at the lovely Broadlands Golf Club in North Prairie. I'm excited to bring this episode to you. It's going to have a little bit different format than what you might be used to if you're familiar with our videos, but I'm playing golf with my fantastic father, T-Bone, aka Thomas Sorensen. So let's follow along and enjoy these 18 holes. For starters, there are countless golf courses in the greater Milwaukee area, and especially in Waukesha County. The Broadlands continues to be one of the highest rated courses in the area, and it's pretty obvious as to why. I'll share some more of my thoughts about that as the video goes along, but the first hole is a 429-yard par 4 from the tips, with pretty much a wide open hitting area no matter what tee box you're starting from. Now, due to some user malfunctions, aka I had to train my dad how to use the cameras a little bit, we are going to concentrate simply on his shots for the first hole here. Following up from that straightforward par 4 with just a couple of bunkers on the left side of the fairway, we come to an absolute brute of a par 5. Tipping out from 563 yards, it is absolutely a 3-shot hole, from the back anyways. I decided to play from the white tees today and was pretty happy with my tee shot here to start. So as you can see, there's a pretty large water hazard on the right, and if you go further back, you have a much smaller landing area to hit into from the tee. So please make sure as you're playing this golf hole, be intelligent. The wind was in our face this day when we were playing, so there was no doubt about it, I was not getting there in two, even after a nice tee shot. Something to keep in mind, though, too, is a well-placed bunker on the left side of the fairway at about, oh gosh, as you can see it right above T-Bone's shot right here. So as you hit your layup shot, if you're going to play a layup shot, be really mindful of being aggressive to the green from your line is probably going to bring some of that trouble into play. I was fortunate enough to clear it from my second shot, so I need to heed my own warnings a little bit better, I suppose. But ultimately, this is a long par 5, the longest on the golf course, and it really is a good test after a fairly straightforward start to the golf course.
Good job. Good finish.
Now, I mentioned just a moment ago there was some user malfunction, and I blamed it on my dad, but I need to do a little bit better myself with the cameras here, too.
Rats.
I really like this third hole as a follow-up to that par 5. It's a dogleg left, not very long, only 392 yards from the back tees and 365 from where I played it. All you really need from the white tees is about 200 yards. That will put you in a very safe position. A longer second shot than some might really hope for, so I went with hybrid just because I was feeling confident with what I could do with it. Some well-placed sand traps on the left side of the fairway right over the dogleg can be a big deterrent from trying to get too aggressive off the tee. And with the water on the right too, you have to be a smart player on this hole. As I mentioned, and one of the big reasons that I appreciate this golf course, and a lot of other players in the area do too, is the attention to detail. So the course conditions, the shape, playing this course on April 19th, so you can see there's not a lot of growth coming in quite yet. And I think this par 3 really does a good job of encapsulating the overall vibe of what this course is. And a lot of the holes do too, but it's not a very long hole, only 150 yards or 149 from the white tees, and obviously shorter from there. But the green complex is challenging and, well, complex, truly. As you can see, the spill area over the back of the green, and there's really no flat putt anywhere on this golf course for the most part. So it gives a big-time country club vibe, and I feel like they do a very good job of keeping the standards high out here at the Broadlands. The fifth hole takes you away from that water hazard that really acts as a magnet to holes 2, 3, and 4, and comes into play in a few holes ahead of here. The next hole runs parallel to this one on the right side, and there's course boundary, as you can see behind me and my dad here on the left. So if you're playing this hole, right side is the safe side, especially when the fescue hasn't grown in just yet. I decided to go with 3-wood because still not trusting the driver, and you're going to hear me say that way too much in this video series. So as we went away from the hazard on the last hole, you can see there's still a bunch of wet ground that we had to deal with. But again, April 19th, those things are going to happen. From that angle where I chipped from, you can see the dynamic nature of the elevation around the greens. That's pretty, I would say, commonplace in a lot of the holes out here. So you really have to be accurate unless you want to have to deal with some sort of tricky chip shot up or down some sort of slope. On to the sixth hole, again running parallel to the fifth. The right side is the safe side. This is a lot shorter of a par 5 than the last one, about 50 yards shorter on the white tees alone. So coming back on this one was kind of exciting after the difficult second hole. So wide open teeing areas for the most part. It does narrow up at about 275 yards or so, with a few sand traps intelligently placed through the fairway. Now, if you want to go for the green in 2, something to keep in mind is there is trouble short and right. So the water that we remember from the second, third, and fourth holes does come into play on the back of the green, and the waste area that accompanies it can hurt you if you make that mistake. So, smart play, 3-shot par 5, but be careful if you want to get aggressive. Another tough par 3. Short, you're dead. Long, you got trouble with some sand, and the fescue if you get especially long off the tee here. So be cautious to the left side unless you really want to go after it. Otherwise, it's a pretty large green to aim at that does slope from the back to the front or right to left depending on your perspective as you're walking towards the green. So aim to the left, go for par. That's a darn good score on this hole. Onward to the 8th hole, where you have more water to think about off the tee. It is a shorter hole, but also fairly tight with the water on the right, fescue on the left, and then out of bounds coming into play fairly quickly outside of the fescue. Safe plays for both Tom and I, and another fairly wet fairway that we had to deal with some embedded balls. And again, April 19th, you're going to deal with some of that stuff. So not a critique, just pointing that out, given the time of the year. And you can see, too, just behind me, the ground holding onto the moisture, and a pretty thick divot with my gap wedge there. More slope on this green. It's a 2-tiered, as you can see, with the back end and the front end. Pin is in a fairly easy position, given the entirety of this green. So if you can, be mindful of where you are trying to place your approach shot, just to give yourself the best chance at a makeable putt. And hole number 9 is where our day got a little bit interesting. Obviously, Tom and I were playing as a twosome this day, and anytime you play as a twosome, you run the risk of slowing things down a little bit, getting caught behind groups, and pace of play can become a little tricky. Now, we got through this front 9 in less than 2 hours, so no complaints, really, at all. However, we had a group behind us that got a little ants in their pants. So, well-placed bunkers on the right and trouble all along the left side, some longer rough and more course boundaries, really require you to put the ball in the fairway. Tom found the sand trap, and I found the long rough on the left, and by the time I had reached my ball, the guys behind us had hit into us. Completely unacceptable stuff. Not to be outshadowed and outdone by Dad's pitch shot up to the green there, which was absolutely fantastic. So it's not necessarily a critique on the golf course at all, but just pointing out why my second shot was omitted from this video. Major big-time slope from back to front on this 9th hole, as you could see with Dad's shot up to the green, and it does roll off to the right from where the pin is located here today. So if you keep the ball below the hole, and you're going to give yourself the best chance to finish with a solid score on the 9th hole. Making the turn, we actually had the opportunity to play through another group. Again, we ran into a bit of a bottleneck out on the course today, and due to the nature of us trying to hustle and get through some of these groups and not hold them up, well, we skipped some of my shots. Not that it mattered, because I did not hit a great tee shot. And as you can see here too, there's a good chunk of fescue just off the fairway. So find your fairway on the 10th hole, find the fairway on the 11th hole, and playing through another group, unfortunately, footage not found. So unfortunately, we couldn't bring you the 11th hole. This was one of my favorites at the Broadlands because it's super short, not terribly complicated, and you can really get aggressive off the tee and try to take advantage of the length of the hole. The par 3s on the backside are a lot simpler than the par 3s on the front, just because you're not dealing with water. Just as the same as pretty much all the holes on the course, you are dealing with some difficult and challenging green complexes, and here with the false front, you really want to make sure that you have enough club to get the ball to the green. Neither one of us really did great here, and again, we're trying to hustle and get through this hole just so we don't get caught up by the group that we were playing through. And as we make it through the 12th hole, we go to the 13th, another brute of a par 5. I'm going to try to be quiet here, just so you can hear all the frogs chirping at Tom and I. I don't know if I can do it justice, just as how much noise they were making as we were playing this hole. But your aim point's going to be really important on this hole. That waist area on the left is obviously a place you do not want to be. So know your yardages to the targets through the fairway. Aim intelligently and try not to be a hero here. If you find the fairway off the tee, the hole becomes a lot simpler and a lot easier. So thankfully both of us did. And from there you can get aggressive, you can get assertive. Because it's just all fairway that does run up to the green. I think this is the par 5 on this golf course that makes the most sense to be aggressive at, to go 4 and 2, just because there is such little trouble in front of the green. However, if the pin's on the right side of the green, like it is today, you have to be mindful of that spill-off area just to the right side in that green complex. So nothing too easy, too simple, but that's going to be your best chance to score. The 14th hole is a straight par 4 with a pretty large landing zone. Not a terrible amount of trouble off the tee, as there is a good amount of rough on the left, and the slope on the right side of the fairway does bring the ball back down towards where you want to be. However, it does start to funnel as you get closer to the green, with 2 well-placed trees on the left and right side of the green. So Your approach shot is going to be down a slope, so the hole does play a little bit shorter than the number on the card at 368 from the whites, 412 from the blacks, and so on and so forth. The tree on the left did provide a little bit of debris to have to hit through, so that was, I would say, an unfortunate piece of the puzzle here today. Again, not a criticism. Again, April 19th, there are going to be some things that reflect the time of the year. But a very large green, again, down the slope with your second shot. So 2 well-struck shots on this hole should get you really close to this green and be able to finish up from there. I hope I can make it back to the Broadlands sometimes this summer, just because the course is 5 or 6 minutes away from the house I grew up in. But the next time I'm out there, I'm hoping that the tree debris from that, well, I'm not an arborist, I don't know what kind of tree it is, but whatever it was dropping, I hope that is taken care of, just so you don't have to worry about chipping or putting through a minefield of stuff. Not a complaint, just pointing something out so you're not surprised if you decide to go play yourself. The last 4 holes at the Broadlands are a fantastic way to finish. The 15th has a downhill tee shot from any one of the tee boxes that you choose to hit from, and it's a pretty wide landing area too. Luckily for my dad and I, we were playing just about towards dusk, so we had a pretty beautiful way to finish our round as well. And being only 346 yards from the white tees, 313 from the golds for my dad, and tipping out at 392 yards, this is not a terribly long hole either. And with a wide fairway and a pretty generous green to hit into, there's not a lot of trouble that you can find on this hole. A couple of fairway bunkers on the left and a couple of bunkers on the short right of the green. Add just a little bit of protection, but really shouldn't be anything to worry about as you hit either your tee shot or your approach shot. I personally enjoy a golf course that has a fairly simple finish, as the game is challenging enough on its own. And when it comes to comparing both nines at the Broadlands, the back nine definitely plays a lot easier than the front. And, as it just so happens, this is the 9 where my dad scored his best 9-hole round in his entire life. He shot a 34 with a good family friend, Dave Alfrey, a number of years ago. If you visit the Sorensen house, you can see it in our basement, next to the workbench, proudly on display. So anytime I get a chance to play golf with my dad, I really, truly appreciate it, but it's especially fun to come out here knowing that he tore this back nine up once, much, much more than we did here today. On our way to the 16th hole, we have an absolutely picturesque par 5. Not terribly long. There are a couple of sand traps on the left that do come into play if you do hit the ball far enough. Otherwise, this is probably a 3-shot hole, just as the hole does get a lot more narrow as you get up to the green, and it does get quite steep as you get closer to it as well. If I were coaching a player on this hole, I would recommend weighing your options on how aggressive you want to be. I don't think there's any harm in turning this hole into a 3-shot par 5, playing things safely, especially if you're really confident with a wedge at a specific number. The green is on the smaller side, and it does slope from back to front, playing into that slope going into the green. So, with a shorter shot, you have a good chance of putting a wedge a lot closer than any sort of long iron, fairway wood, hybrid, anything like that. Good give.
On the shelf here.
And I'm not big on tooting my own horn, but I really am pleased with how this shot turned out. Not the putt itself, but the shot that I got with my GoPro placed behind the ball as I missed the putt. It's a beautiful hole on a beautiful golf course, and a good par 5 that you can help your score out after potentially a tough day, especially on that front nine. I love this as a 17th hole. It's short, so you can think to yourself, yeah, I want to get aggressive. Maybe even try to reach the green with the driver. I went with a 3-wood, and I chunked the living crap out of it. But one really unique aspect of this hole is that bunker just to the right of my dad, right there. The bunker is placed intelligently. The whole design itself is fantastic. From the tees, it has that left to right kind of shape to it, but everything about the hole really slopes from right to left. So the most intelligent play that you can do is to hit your tee shot short and left of the green so that you have the best angle of attack at the flag. On a personal note, I'm not a huge fan of 18-hole golf courses finishing with a par 3. But this is a great par 3 to finish off on. It's not terribly long, and the green, as you can see, is fairly large. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and you can see it from this angle here, just how quickly the green falls off the front edge. But little personal biases aside, I am so happy that I was able to record a video with the man who turned me onto this sport when I was so young. He had an incredible career coaching high school golf at Muskego with some special players and some special teams along the way. This sport is special to me, and being able to do this video with a very special person to me, well, you can guess, it was pretty special. And how about this about special? T-Bone knocking in a par putt to finish.
That's it?
Look at that smile, huh?
That's all
Come
you're
on
gonna
now, Tom. Celebrate some more, would you?
Spike your head or something.
Pretty short summary here. This is a fantastic golf course to come play. So if anytime you're in the greater Milwaukee area, check out the Broadlands. And even better, do it with someone that you love. As always, I really appreciate you watching these videos, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks again. We'll see ya.